I am nothing if I'm not a journalist. I am nothing if I'm not a gamer and a wrestling fan.
Hey guys, this is Tempest from Wrestle Talk, and I'm reminding you to support Tom Talks Rubbish.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Trash, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by Sam Smith from Distretto or Soundsphere magazine. So, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tom. You okay? Yeah, Deserto is that.
I know I'd butcher it.
It's hard work. Don't worry. It's all right. I always call it Dexerto until the guys correct me. So I still do it. So don't you worry.
So, if we take this back to the beginning, my friend, where do you first discover wrestling?
Oh wow! Oh God! Right. Well, I think as a little kid, I was aware of Hulk Hogan and what he did because I'm older than I look. But I watched a few Hulk Hogan movies. But the thing where my fandom really began just prior to the Attitude Era, with Sting going all dark and things like that. So I was always a WCW guy at first. Until the dawn of the Attitude Era, I suppose, and there, I think me and my friends just became obsessed with WWF and WCW, and half of us didn't have Sky TV in the UK, so we'd watch WCW on like Channel 5 on a Friday night, and then
worldwide, if I remember correctly.
And it was always like a week behind the States anyway. And then we'd run around to my mate's house, who was like one of the first in the neighborhood to have Sky, and we'd watch WWF, and we all fell in love with Stone Cold versus McMahon. But yeah, for me, the real fandom began, the real lifelong love began with Stone Cold versus Bret Hart.
Which one, the Survivor Series or the Mania 13?
The double turn. That was because I'd never quite seen storytelling done that way and done so naturally in wrestling, and that was it. Just after that moment, I don't think I've taken a week off. So there we are.
Fair enough. So because I do jump around a lot in my interviews.
That's cool.
If we go back to the Hulk Hogan and discovering his movies first, what did you think? Like, did you just think this is just a cool actor, or was it like, did you know he was a wrestler? Is what I was getting at, really.
I always thought, because I was a kid, I always thought back then I thought wrestling was real because I was only little. I just thought wrestling was like another boxing or an alternative to boxing. I thought it was just a similar kind of thing. So I knew Hulk Hogan was a wrestler. And then I started watching, some WWF to see him. And then as I got a little bit older, I wasn't really into the wrestling side of it until I think people like Sting came along. Hulk Hogan was a little bit too in your face for me.
Okay, why was that?
I don't know. I think it was all eat your vegetables, say your prayers, brother. It was all of that. I don't think that spoke to me as a nerdy little kid. But the guy hiding in the rafters with his crow makeup, that had my attention. I think, me and my mates we'd sit on the park, or we talk about Sting versus Vampiro and things like that. It was all the dark stuff. And I became aware of The Undertaker as well, I suppose, at quite a young age.
I thought that was going to be I thought you'd say that.
I think like him and Paul Bearer and all that sort of stuff. Like the early Undertaker before the Attitude Era kicked off, that stuff. I became quite fascinated by him as well. I don't think I could even point to a match, but it was just his aura. He was always just different, wasn't he?
Definitely. One thing I am curious to know: did you know what a Paul Bearer was when you discovered Paul Bearer?
I did, because I remember talking about it at the dining room table to my mum, and she laughed. And I said, "What are you laughing at?" And she goes, "Paul Bearer means someone who carries someone's coffin at a funeral." And I was like, "Well, isn't it?" Not realizing kayfabe is kayfabe.
I had that moment, and I'm quite embarrassed to say this. I worked it out. I was watching a TV show, and there was a moment where they were, and this was recently. This is quite embarrassing. I figured it out. I was watching, I think it was The West Wing actually, and someone's funeral was on there, and someone said pallbearer, and I was like, wait, he's dead. How is he on this? And
I just saw him drowning in concrete. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, and then they said, and then someone said to me, wait, no, the pallbearer is that. I was like, okay, I feel stupid at 23 years old.
Oh, so this was
recent.
Percy Pringle's actual death rather than his kayfabe death in concrete.
Yeah,
right.
This was recent. I was like, wow. Anyway, moving on. Not talking about myself. I do apologize.
Okay, don't worry. It's a conversation.
Yeah. So if we continue in your fandom, you said you've never taken a week off. So have you not had like that gap away period that everyone else has had?
I tell a lie. Actually, I have. When I felt like a couple of things made me fall out of love at one point, and it was a continuous. I couldn't even tell you in what order they came in, but it was first of all it was the firing of CM Punk, the retirement of Daniel Bryan, the Sting had come out of retirement and then had to retire again because of Seth Rollins. We hadn't come out of retirement; he'd been in TNA for
I know what you mean.
And it was just a continuous series of knocks. And that did it for me. And I think that I got with, my girlfriend. I spent a lot of time with her. But then it was just before it was when Goldberg came back to hit for him and Brock Lesnar to reignite their feud.
2016 Survivor Series, I think.
Yeah. But I wasn't fully out, but I was a lot out.
Yeah.
To the point where I've been with, the woman I'm married to now. I've been with her for 10 years, but I've been with her for a while, and she didn't even know I was a wrestling fan.
Oh wow!
And it was amazing. She knew I was a massive gamer, but she didn't know much about the wrestling. And all of a sudden, that was a lot to digest because I went from not watching it to watching everything again. Back to TNA, back to Ring of Honor, back to New Japan, and it was a shock to the system for her. I couldn't hide it from her when we moved in together. I think that was the point. And then from that day,
you brought up hiding it from her. Did you hide it from her till you moved in then? Did you feel the need to?
I hid it from a lot of people for a long time. Not so much when I was a kid, but when I became an adult and I had to put a suit on every day and go to the office, and I don't do that anymore. I work right here in these t-shirts.
That Clash at the Castle t-shirt is dope, by the way.
You know what, by the way, this is actually a large because I couldn't be asked queuing for 2 hours to get a medium, so I got a large.
Let me guess, it shrank in the wash.
I've been steadily shrinking it deliberately in the tumble dryer. And soon it'll be right. So I'm nearly there. I'm probably one more.
I do that with a lot of. You have to with the English ones, I think. Because I think the American sizes are different to the English ones, so it's like they come out a lot larger on people than our ones do, which is quite weird. But that was a tangent I didn't expect to.
No, don't worry, it's all right. But no, my point is, I hid it from a lot of people. But then I think as UFC got a bit, I used to call wrestling my guilty pleasure. I don't anymore. I don't care anymore what people think. It's one of the ways I earn money. It's something I like. I'm not embarrassed anymore. I'm too old now as well to care about that sort of stuff and those opinions. And the geeks have inherited the earth anyway. So
yeah, like I heard this analogy a while ago. It was they can't do Revenge of the Nerds anymore because nerds have overtaken. Now it needs to be like Revenge of the Jocks because not as many people care about the big football game or something like that, as opposed to the nerdy thing that people care about. Do you know what I mean?
Well, good luck, boys, because we all work out now too. So let's see how that goes for you.
But there was this thing about when was the moment then that you were like, okay, I'm gonna not out myself as a wrestling fan, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was because I'd spent a long time hiding it from my in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. And it got to a point where I couldn't do that anymore. And they kept on asking me what was on my T-shirt. And I think they quizzed me on a Bullet Club T-shirt. I've always been very liberal, very left-wing. And they were like, why are you wearing a T-shirt with guns all over it? I thought you were a different kind of cat. and I had to explain what it was.
Oh God, I can
Yeah.
imagine that conversation.
And they just didn't get it. They didn't get it. And I explained it a little bit further, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't know you were into that." Like, they knew I was into UFC, so I had to just kind of tie it to that a little bit. But then I thought, if I can explain it to my in-laws, I can explain it to anyone, and I don't have to hide anymore. And it was about the time where I picked up a full-time journalist anyway. I was writing about video games for a living, but even that took some. And you're a journalist.
You broke up massively there, man.
There was a little bit of confusion because they always thought. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can. Oh, I know what's happened. Oh, no.
Oh, I don't know what happened there. Internet's usually okay up here.
It might be me. I do apologize. We might have to start. I might have to reset and start again, man. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry. It might be mine. The weather's terrible here. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah. We're good now. Sorry about that. So you were saying, like, to your in-laws, you had to hide your video game things as well?
Well, it wasn't that. It just I think they said to me, "You won't be into video games forever. You will grow out of them." And I was like, "Well, if you think that's the case, wait till you discover about the wrestling side of things." So bear with me one moment. I'm just going to ask my wife if she won't stream anything just for an hour, just so it doesn't interfere with this. Just
I'll pause the recording. And we are back. Sorry about that, guys. There was a little internet situation we had to deal with, but we are back now. So, as we were saying about your in-laws, and you said they thought you wouldn't be into video games ever. How has sort of them seeing that you are still into these nerdy things, has that changed things at all, or not really?
Yeah, I think now there's no. I think I don't hide at all anymore. Now, me in a Bullet Club shirt or me with a Mario shirt is just normality, and it's been like that for many years. To be fair, but I think it was almost to get them to know that and understand that.
Was it a relief for it to all come out that you were nerdy and not have to hide it anymore?
Yeah, totally. I've had them sit through a Royal Rumble match now. Every year we go to Centre Parks at the end of January, usually when the Royal Rumble's on. So I ain't missing the Royal Rumble for anything. So I watch it there, and they're a little bit blown away by it. But obviously Royal Rumble's everyone's favourite. I'm not missing that.
Yeah.
So there we are. Yeah.
I think, is it true what they say in that regard then? That show a non-wrestling fan a Rumble, and they'll enjoy it.
Well, yeah, because even if you're not into wrestling, you're going to be entertained by that. It is a fun thing to watch, and wrestling is infectious as well. If people are into something, like my wife's not a massive fan, she likes it, but Clash of the Castle, she was just as by all the McIntyre near falls as we were. And when Austin Theory turned up, she was booing, and when Solo Sikoa unmasked, she was like, "Who's that? I hate him." So
I love that.
So there you go. So you can't. Resistance is futile sometimes. When wrestling's really good, and you are going to get sucked in, unless you've got no soul. I think anyway.
Fair enough. I fully agree with you on that. So as we move on to your career, how do you first get into the journalism game?
Right. Well, I've been a journalist for a while, but more quite traditional. But I kind of lost confidence at one point, and I went back to a career in marketing and PR and things like that, and sales and stuff like that. And when I got made redundant from one job, I thought, I'm not really doing anything with this journalism degree, so I'm going to be a freelance reporter for a while. And that actually went all right. Got into the gaming side of things as a freelancer. I did some other odd jobs. Worked for a group called Gaming Intel for a while. Then earned a place at Deserto, which is where I still am, 9 to 5. Those guys are my employers. We're a massive growing space. It's just an awesome place to be. But I had met Dom in uni. He'd been Dom Smith of Soundsphere.
For people that haven't watched our previous interviews, that is Dom Smith from Soundsphere. A great guy. If you haven't checked out his work, by the way, make sure you check him out. Sorry to take over the plugs there.
He's my boss at Soundsphere. There's no relation. I know we're both Smiths.
I did wonder that. I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah. No relation, at least as far as I'm aware. And but anyway, and Dom had been a guest lecturer when I was on my course, and we kind of stayed in touch after that. And one day he must have seen something I put on Twitter, and he sent me a message saying, "Hi mate, look, I might need another pair of hands with some wrestling stuff. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, damn straight." So ever since that's become a side hustle. That's actually become something I love, really. So now, because I've interviewed some high profile wrestlers and I've done quite a bit of stuff for Soundsphere, like I did the review for Clash at the Castle and then for All Out recently. So that's become so much more than a side hustle now, where Dicerto is still my full-time job, and gaming is still number one. Wrestling is a very, very strong number two, really. It's
if I said to you, pick between gaming and wrestling journalism, which one would you pick?
Can't be done. Chop me in half.
Okay.
I tell you, well, Dicerto is my full-time job, so I have to always be a gaming man first and foremost, and I'm fine with that. And I wake up every morning, remember I'm a gaming journalist, and smile. That. I think that is the best job in the world, but being able to supplement my income with my other great love, which is wrestling, that's it's being blessed. It's completely amazing. I wouldn't change a damn thing really at this point, but it took some. It was scary at one point because being a freelance journalist and when you've got no clients and you've then got to start building them up, that was the scary part. But I look back now and I'm so glad I got made redundant and did that. I'm so happy.
Really?
Yeah. Best thing ever.
So where do you think you'd be if you hadn't got made redundant?
Bored. Still in an office, working in selling a product, marketing a product I didn't believe in, probably. I won't say what it is, but it was in financial services. And I think, and that really, but I worked from home then, on my own right here in these t-shirts. But then when the pandemic struck, the world changed really. The rise of the remote worker, and all of a sudden I wasn't so weird anymore, and this just became the done thing. Like at Dicerto, we all, at least the vast majority of us, are remote reporters. Everything we do is connected by a network through the internet. We're all in our own offices, and we work so well. And I don't think I'd have it any other way now. And the same with Soundsphere. Dom lives up in Hull, and I'm all the way here in Preston. So that we have met face to face a couple of times, but not many times. So there we are.
Was Cardiff one of your first face to face meetings?
I actually didn't see Dom in Cardiff. Would you believe?
Didn't you?
Spoke on the phone a dozen times, but we did it very differently. He was down in with the press teams, and I think he hung out with the Cultaholic Boys at one point, where I was with my wife just playing tourist. So there we are.
Oh, so you didn't go down there for work?
I was prepared to. I thought, Dom, I'm here if he needs me. But all of our phones died as the stadium filled up, and as the city got more and more full of wrestling fans. Just phone reception just died.
Oh, so wow.
I couldn't reach out to Dom anyway. So I said, right, well, I'm just going to go and find my seat and get another beer. And here we are. That's what I had to do.
If you had to work it, was there anything you maybe would have done differently that you did as a tourist?
I wouldn't have drank so much.
Fair dues.
But I say that might not be true. I probably would have been a bit more organised as well, perhaps. But we went around Cardiff. We did a bit of shopping. We did a bit of this, did a bit of that. Had a few drinks in Alchemy and Wetherspoons and a bunch of other places. And then we just had a slow walk over to the stadium, and we just soaked up the atmosphere, really, of everybody being there. Like my wife said, it's like being in a crowd of 60,000 youths. It's weird.
I literally said this on Twitter like the weekend after, like seeing all the pictures and stuff, seeing like Dom having such a good time, seeing the Cultaholic Boys having such a good time. I was like, oh man, why didn't I take the plunge? Do you know what I mean? I do regret it now.
It was an expensive ticket, but again, and but the worst part was you looking at all the hotels in the city. They're all like 600 to 800 quid for like a Premier Inn.
I know.
Like what? So
that's half the reason I didn't take the plunge, because it was so expensive.
It nearly stopped me going. So and then we got a little Airbnb just outside of the city for about 200 quid, and that was all right. We didn't mind that. That was cool.
But yeah, as I say, I am a bit like now, oh man. But anyway, going back to what we were talking about originally, with the rise of the remote worker, as you say, and with the pandemic, slowly but surely life is going back to how it was pre-pandemic. Do you think the remote worker is here to stay?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just happening in our industry. I've got mates who are, not even journalists. They do other stuff, and it's here to stay for them. And I speak to a lot of games developers and games designers and things like that, and they're developing their games remotely in their boxes, in their garages, or in their lofts, just like every other remote worker is doing. They've got their cat jumping on them in the middle of a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I'm surprised my dog hasn't been scratching at the door yet to make an appearance. I'm not gonna lie.
This is why I do everything I do in a loft conversion, so the cats and the dogs can't get near me, because we've got hundreds of them. Well, a bunch of them. So
I live downstairs, so I don't have that option, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but yeah, so with the remote worker being here to stay, what do you think some benefits of that are? And then what do you think some maybe side effects / negatives of that are?
Well, for me, I've always been quite motivated, so I haven't really seen any downside. For me, it's I can get up an hour later. I don't need to commute. I don't need to dress up. I love everything, but I've got sort of like my wife's a nurse. She couldn't do it. She needs to get in her car and drive to her place of work, then come away from it and turn off her work phone. That's how she operates. She wants to do her shift, come away, and be in family mode. Where for me, I know to her, like, medicine isn't a day job for her. She has to switch off from it. But for me, journalism also isn't a day job. It's part of your identity, especially when you write about the things you love. I don't take a day off from gaming or wrestling. It's built into my DNA now, I suppose. I am nothing if I'm not a journalist. I am nothing if I'm not a gamer and a wrestling fan as well, really. Which is
what you talk about there, not taking a day off and stuff. But what have you put in place to avoid burnout from these industries, but also keep your fandom alive in these industries?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's like I remember the Cultaholic Boys talking about that. They were like, "Would you take a break from it if this wasn't your job?" And I don't think I would, and I'll tell you why. Because apart from that one time, where I did, I think now I'm too into it again. I want it to succeed so much. I think if this wasn't my job, I think if this wasn't my job, I'd probably watch even more wrestling and play even more games. Because a lot of the games I play and the wrestling I watch is sometimes dictated to by work, because it's stuff I've got to do because I've got to write about it at some point. But the two things I do, I think I might go to the gym. I might go swimming. I'm a big swimmer.
Preach. I'm exactly the same. Like working out, swimming, and stuff like that is something that like keeps your head in a good space. Do you know what I mean?
And because I live in the absolute arse end of nowhere, I can get my dogs on leads and just get stuck into like the country lanes in the woods, and go out and walk with them and just get into that. Then pull up at a country pub, have a drink, have some food, come home. That's how I turn off. That's how I. But it's never long. When I get in, I think, oh God, I've got Dynamite to watch, or I've got Raw to watch, and I'm actually enjoying Raw and SmackDown again.
Yeah.
Since Triple H took over, so I'm enjoying being a wrestling fan so much again. It's not that I've got mixed feelings about Vince, and it is a case of thank you, Vince, thank you for the memories. But
definitely. But after what's come out, I'm very sort of like not glad he's gone. That's the wrong phrase, but you know what I'm trying to say, don't you?
I think it's okay to be. I think those of us who've been weaned on NXT in recent years,
Black and gold, baby. Like I'm so looking forward to this.
I am. I'm looking forward to Wednesday just to see what they do.
So have I. Tuesday, but I take your point.
Yeah. Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Do you know I watch it on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday.
That's why. Because we're in the UK, innit? And it's on a Wednesday. Exactly. I get what you mean. Yeah.
I've had this conversation with Dom a few times. Dom has been like, "Do you want to ever stay up and live stream for some pay-per-views and do stuff like that? You know, do you want to stay up late?" And he goes, "Because I know Dom does it quite a lot." And I've said to him, "Mate, I'm too old for that. It gets to 10 p.m. I'm in bed. Like I watch wrestling on my iPad with my headphones on. I love that. But 1 a.m. Who's awake at 1 a.m.?
I'm like that. Like he's asked me a few times. I keep talking about myself. I do apologize.
It's okay.
It's like with my medical needs, I've got cerebral palsy. I don't know if I told you that, but like no. I've got cerebral palsy, and I have to stick to this schedule. Otherwise, the next day I feel absolutely fucked, for lack of a better word. So it's like he's asked me a few times, and it's like I'd love to, man, but I know what I'll be paying for the next day. So talking about like the burnout side of it as well, if you did stop loving the industries you're in, would you be like, Dom, the other company that I don't want to butcher their name again, I do apologize, I've got to step away to find my passion again?
Yeah.
Is that a big question?
I think I'm so much of a fan. I don't know if I'd need to. I sometimes have to sideline wrestling, and because I did a lot of the coverage of the Elden Ring coverage for Deserto. Yeah. So I had 10 days to beat that game and learn as much as I could about it before the review, before the guides. So wrestling, there was no wrestling for 10 days, nothing at all. I barely even ate or slept. It was
wow.
Play Elden Ring, you know, blind for 10 days, which is awesome, absolutely awesome, but hard work, and you're going to get through a lot of controllers.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so every now and then, professional needs mean wrestling needs to go on pause, especially with them being my core employer. And I think that'd be the same if it was anything else. If I was a sports journalist for another sport, if I was a fitness journalist, I'd have to pause stuff like that to prioritize that. And obviously every now and then I'll put family first as well. If wrestling has to wait, if there's something, a family need as well. So
if Dom came to you and was like, okay, we've got this for Soundsphere, we've got this, we want you to come on board and do like full-time wrestling coverage, would that be something you'd be interested in? Or are you like, I like to keep wrestling almost at arm's length so I can still be a fan?
I actually don't know the answer to that question because at this moment in time, I'm very committed to Deserto, and I'm very committed to helping them build a massive brand of their gaming channel to become a even bigger, and everything's going in the right direction there. I love it, but yeah, I love wrestling too. That would be something. Because I don't want my bosses there to see that and go, "You cheeky little git, you're thinking of leaving, are you?" Because I'm honestly not.
I was going to say, like, if you have to give me a corporate answer on that, I do appreciate that, and I apologise if that question.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Right now, I suppose the answer is no. It would need to be in the future, and if that was, it would have to be like completely costed. It'd have to be this. It'd have to be that. It'd have to be so much. But at this moment in time, it would be like giving up gaming for wrestling, and I love both so much. And again, I thank my lucky stars every day that I get to wake up and my job is to write about games, finish work, and then go and write about wrestling. I couldn't wish for anything more. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ask for more or chase more, because for the first time in my life, I'm satisfied with what I've got, and thankful of it.
Yeah, definitely. What would like younger Sam, when you were first becoming a fan and like were a big fan of these things, what would he think of what you're doing?
He'd be dancing naked in the streets, probably. I think, especially the unhappy Sam, who had some.
Yeah, what would the unhappy Sam of like during your redundancy period and stuff like that think of what you're doing?
He probably wouldn't believe it. He'd probably be. How the hell did that happen? Because that particular, version of me probably didn't have the confidence at that time or the self-belief to that was something that other people did, other journalists did, and maybe they knew somebody, maybe they were better than I was, or whatever it might have been, because you do sometimes need a bit of luck as well as the skill, but you have to make your own luck when you've got the skill and you've got the ability to and the self-discipline to sit down when you work for a living and you are singing for your supper when you're a freelance journalist, because if you don't earn, your mortgage don't get paid, and you've got your family to think about. So I think it was that I was fed up of hearing no, and so yeah, he'd be very happy, but I always, because I think that again, that version of me was stuck in a rut at one point, and sometimes being set free and that redundancy, it was the kick up the arse I needed. So I'm so happy about that.
So if you hadn't been made redundant, do you think you would have had the confidence to be like, I'm going to leave and just take this shot? Or do you think that was sort of the push you needed?
I don't know if I would have. Because it was the second time in my life I've been made redundant. The first time in my life I was made redundant, I went and did a journalism degree, but the job market was a bit tougher back then, and breaking into wrestling and gaming just seemed impossible. So I just got into marketing, which was creative. It was fun, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. Not really.
Yeah, fair enough. So as we look at wrapping this up, because I do want to be respectful of your time, and I also want to be I also want to be respectful of your wife's time, like, because we have said to her, like, she has only got to stop streaming for a little while. So I do want to be respectful of that as well. We're going to do a very quick segment that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before will know this, where I ask my guests their favorite wrestling match, favorite pay-per-view, favorite wrestling theme song, favorite tag team, and favorite superstar. And maybe we will throw some gaming ones in there for Sam as well. So what's your favorite match of all time?
Favorite match of all time? Can I have three if I'm quick? Yeah. So Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, the double turn, for obvious reasons. We've discussed that. My other one is Daniel Bryan winning the big one in New Orleans. What a moment. Big fan of the Kenny Omega versus Okada series as well. But then there's the one now this is a guilty pleasure because nobody else in the world likes this match but me, is Sting versus Triple H. I think it was Mania 31.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a good match, not really.
Oh, no.
But what I like about it is it's the young me would have loved that. The NWO fighting DX. Sting should have gone over. But those worlds colliding in that moment.
And one thing I will add is, why was the NWO backing up Sting? Like I do.
Because my wife asked me that, and I said to her, I think it's time has gone on, and at this point things are more important, and the NWO are finally doing the right thing, and they're coming back, and there's a lot of water under the bridge now. So the NWO are coming back, and they're helping the guy who kicked their ass so many times on Nitro.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Just the WCW and WWF fan in me loved that, because I hate wrestling wars. I hate one thing I'd love to say while we've got this platform is I can't stand the toxicity at the moment, and this AW versus WWE.
Yeah, fully agree.
It's like, dude, it's like some of you guys just don't know. You're allowed to watch both. It's cool.
Yeah.
Just watch both. You don't have to hate one because you watch the other. No one's going to come to your house and beat you up. No one's going to, you're not going to get prosecuted. You ain't going to get a knock on your door. Just watch both. Love wrestling, because a rising tide, raises all ships.
Yeah.
The better WWE is, the better everything else is, and AEW creates competition. And it's anyway, this wrestling versus this, it does my head in. It's like people don't know you're allowed to play Xbox and PlayStation. You are.
I mean, I'm an Xbox guy, so I'll always root for Xbox. But like, I know PlayStation gave me a lot of memories from my childhood, so I do see what you're saying there.
I don't want to live in a world where I can't play The Last of Us or Halo.
This is true. This is true.
It's like making me pick between, ketchup and mayonnaise.
And like I said to you, wrestling and gaming.
Yeah, I don't like the word "or" because the word "and" exists. So screw the word "or."
Yeah, definitely.
But those are my matches and my tangents.
So, favorite pay-per-view of all time?
I think at this moment it's probably New Orleans Miracle on Bourbon Street because of the Daniel Bryan
Mania 30, then, yeah.
Mania 30. That's the one. Just that, what a moment.
Favorite wrestler's theme song of all time?
I think it's got every time that glass smashes.
Yeah.
That anchor, that psychological anchor. Dun 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 dun. It's got to be Stone Cold. I think there might be more, and I'll probably think of more later. But that's the one.
I'll probably get a DM later, like, why didn't I say this?
But that's the one that made me pop so much as a kid, and even now, if I hear that, it's like a Mania this year when it happened again this year. They knew what they were doing. I don't know if it fully came off afterwards with McMahon getting in the ring and all that madness. But Stone Cold coming out in Texas, it's just amazing to see him again.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's that one.
Favorite wrestling tag team of all time?
Who could it be? I've always liked tag team wrestling, but I've always been much more of a singles wrestling guy. So at the moment, I think I'm going to go with the Usos at the moment because the bloodline is just killing it. It's just amazing. It's the best thing in WWE at the moment. Long may they reign. And I just think they're stupidly talented, those guys. They're just so talented.
Fair enough. And then, as we wrap this up, favorite wrestling superstar or wrestler of all time?
I think Sting was always my guy as a kid. It was always the Stinger. Stinger and Stone Cold. Goldberg gets a lot of hate these days, but I thought he was electric when I was younger. Again, he's not going to have technical masterclasses, but he doesn't need to. He comes out, he destroys you, and he leaves.
Yeah.
That was the point. I didn't need him to be Bret Hart because I had Bret Hart for that. So yeah, I think Sting and Stone Cold probably.
Fair enough. Yeah. And then, as just quickly, I'll throw some gaming ones in there. Best gaming franchise of all time?
I flip-flop, depending on where I am. I think Resident Evil is my all-time favourite. For Deserto, I'm the Souls guy. I'm the guy who's got the patience to sit through the Dark Souls games, the Elden Ring games, go through them and learn every secret. So they're my favourite at the moment, but the thing that really gets me excited and has done since I was a kid is Resident Evil, I think.
Favourite gaming character of all time?
My avatar in Skyrim because he's ace. No,
fair dues.
Sonic the Hedgehog, I think. Sonic. He was the one first game I ever played, so I owe it all to Sonic, I think.
Fair enough. And then finally, what is your favourite video game of all time?
I think the one that's the most time into it might be Skyrim. I think that's the thing I often go back to. I think I bought it about 6 times. I don't know why. I don't know how. There's some hit, but Skyrim's the one I often come back to.
Fair enough. As we wrap this up, Sam, the question I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general, and writing in your case. We're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very, very weird way. So what is one piece of content from your good self that you want the good people to check out? And then what is one that you're like, if you could avoid that, I would appreciate it?
Well, if you could avoid everything before Soundsphere and Deserto, that'd be great. I mean, everything.
Really?
Oh no, well, I don't know. I'm joking. Do you know when you look back at something you've read a year ago and cringe?
Definitely.
That kind of thing. But I look at stuff I wrote last week and I'm like, oh, dude, should be a comma there. But anyway, so the things I'm most proud of at the moment is probably I did a Woe Long Fallen Dynasty preview the other day. for Deserto. I'm very proud of that. I'd love people to have a read of that because that game looks awesome. And when it comes to wrestling content, I'd love it if people read our reviews on Soundsphere, because it's often me who covers the big pay-per-views and almost writes a reflective piece. Not so much a review, but here we are. This is where we're going now. This is what we think. And we do it a little bit differently to everybody else, and I don't sugarcoat anything either. And I think Dom gives me a lot of leeway with that, which is nice. The Soundsphere.
Fair enough.
I think we're breaking up again. Oh.
So we will wrap this up as we finally break up internet-wise again. Where can the good people find you and all your content as we wrap this up?
Yeah, again, I've got a Twitter page. I forget to put stuff on there, but Dom remembers for me a lot of the time for Soundsphere. But that's where Soundsphere's wrestling content, that is where you'll find me. And Deserto, their gaming section, that's where you'll find me as well. They're, the two places. Between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I'm all over Deserto. Evenings and weekends, I'm all over Soundsphere. No days off.
It's well worth doing, guys. So if you guys like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talk Trash. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talk Trash. Follow bodyslam.net wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube for my show, and on Twitter for my show with Cassidy Haynes, the WrestleWatch podcast. And follow the WrestleWatch pod wherever you get your on Twitter to help us pick the match that we're going to watch every week. And I will see you in the next one. A goodbye.